So good morning and welcome everyone. I'm Steve. Thank you for joining me today. This is our first forum of 2024. And I'd like to go through new features in stock reordering. We've recently added significant enhancements and improvements to the stock reordering. And today I'm going to demonstrate these new features and changes that we've implemented. And this will be in the first release of 2024. So you haven't got these features at the moment, but you'll get them hopefully in the next couple of weeks. They will be available to you. So to start, I'm just going to share my screen and stop my video. Okay, so I'm going to navigate into, hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to navigate into requirements, and the button for stock reordering is the same place it's always been. It's just that we've added quite a few features into here. So if I just click this button, now this is a demo database, so there's very little data on here. And when you click search, you may get, depending on how many products you've got set to stock reordering, you may get quite a lot. But what I'm going to cover today is this real-time history. You know, how this will bring back the last 12 months for all the products in your stock reordering, and you'll be able to see the pattern of purchase. And obviously, if you're not selling something, then that's going to tell you perhaps you might not be wanting to stock reorder that anymore, for example. Another feature we've added is the automatic calculating based on this new type 3, which I'll be going through in detail. We've put additional information into the grid, stuff like default bin, but also you can see the settings for each of these types and reorder multiples and stuff like that. So we'll be going through that and what that means. And then finally, when you select a line down below, you can see which vendor is currently selected, but we've also got this new button, which is defaults. So I'm going to go through those defaults. But before I do that, I'd like to take a look at the stock product and what this is based on and how we used to do it. So the reason we've added these defaults is so that you don't have to go back to the stock product. Once you've set it up, you'll be able to manage this stuff from here. But before we do that, I really want to explain what that is. So if I go into stock products, the way I've got a product setting here, it's in the stock reordering. So if you navigate to the product and go into warehouse and locations, then for the depot you're in, and I'm in the depot HQ here, so I'm just managing this particular. I'd have to log into a different depot in order to manage the stock levels on a different depot, so it can be managed independently for each depot. So looking at this product, SAN 3001, in here I've got the bin, the warehouse and bin, and the depot. I've got the type of reordering. Now, we never used to have this type. This has been introduced. It was simply managed before on minimum level and reorder levels, but we've introduced this new one called reorder amount and reorder history, which is types. So we decided to make this more easier to understand. We decided to put in the types. So type 1 is what is existing, was existing before, reorder to a minimum level. And then you've got the option to fixed amounts. Type 2 is to satisfy the reorder level, but up to the maximum level. So if you'd run down to 40, for example, it would order back up so that you had 200. And you can decide whether you want to include any purchases at the moment or not. We'll show you that in the next bit. And then the exciting bit really is this new one, which is type 3. And it's the reorder based on history in weeks. Yeah. So when this is selected, as you select each of these, you can edit these fields. But as I said, you can also do this from the reorder screen now. So what this means is you've got a reorder amount and then you've got a reorder history. Now that we've got sales history in there, what you can do is, for example, you could say, all right, I want to order based on 26 weeks or 13 weeks, and that's the average that you've been using over the last 13 weeks, say. So if we put 13 in here and 6 in here, that would mean that if you'd been selling an average of 5 every week over the last 13 weeks, then the reorder amount would be 6 weeks, 5 6s are 30, and it would make any adjustments based on the reorder multiples for the vendor you're ordering from, and also based on your existing stock, and also any sales you've got in the pipeline. Now, the great thing is you don't have to go through every single product and set them in here, because if you go into the vendor, be it Ascendant or Fellows or MMM, you can set against the vendor in the suppliers tab, say 6 and 13. So unless you want this particular product to be different, if you leave it as 0 and 0, that will inherit whatever's set against the vendor. So that's a new field in the vendor record. So that's the way that's I mean it just worked on the quantities before, but now you have to have the type in there. You can to make that easier, we put the type into the grid. So if I take that product out and I say, oh, reorder type, what have I got set to type 3? I can do a search. These are in stock items, but I can take that out and do all items. Obviously, again, just a few items are set up in my test database. But all these items for Depot HQ, we will see are set to Depot HQ here, and it's set to type 3. And you'll have an amount in here or 0 if it's using the default. That's interesting to note. In here at the moment, we've got cheapest vendor and the vendor itself. We're expanding this out, and we're working on this right now, so that instead of just having SB Richards or Ascendant, we'll have the ability to set the actual account. So you'll be able to set, say, your SB Richards bulk buy account or carton account, or your Ascendant similar bulk buying accounts. It doesn't have to be a bulk buy account. You'll be able to see all the accounts and select any of them. So let's go back to the stock reordering. So the stock reordering button is here in the requirements when so the buyer's got access. So if we return this, now as I said before, you don't have to return. I could just start typing here. So what we've got in the filters, I can just start typing and I can select Fellows, or you can just do the traditional. You can select multi, and you can do the search here. Or I can just, in my case, I can just take them out. But I'd recommend really doing your purchasing for one vendor, otherwise it's going to return a lot of records. And if you just search on here, if you're a large stocking dealer, it's going to return a lot of records. We also, the default is always sales history, but interestingly enough, you can come in here and look at the purchasing history. So you can go in here. It won't buy on the purchasing history, but that'll show you that it's quite an interesting one to look at. But as I say, the buying decisions for type 3 or any stock reordering really are based on sales history. You can filter on the reorder types, probably not really necessary, because whatever type it is, it's going to tell you what quantity to order, and you can just highlight them and build multiple POs at the same time just by highlighting them, yeah. When I select any of these lines, it will load the selected supplier. So it might not necessarily be the preferred supplier, but what we've done in here, we've shown two prices. So this is the selected supplier and this is the preferred supplier. And there can be quite big differences, obviously, in that. We are going to introduce another column which can show if there's further savings. So if one of the vendors in here has got increased savings from what you've got selected, it'll let you know about it. So there's various phases. So what have we added into this grid? I did say before, that we've now got the bin in here. That'll help you when they're stocking items to make sure that something's set. So for example, there's no bin set here. It's just using the default of goods inwards. It's showing the selected supplier, and you might think, well, hang on, for today, I don't want to use that supplier. So just for this session, you can go in here and you could change that if there's more than one. I say I'm going to use Ascendant today. And for this session, if you change the vendor, it will change it here, and it will only change it for this session. If you want to change it permanently, then you would go into the defaults here, and you can see it's set to SB Richards. So that's the preferred one. But if I'm going to say, all right, well, Ascendant's my my cheaper option or the better option for me. We can also update, you know, where are we stocking this item? Again, I haven't got many bins in here, but you can change that. You can change your minimum levels, and simply by updating that. Now that won't take effect until you do a fresh search. But it will be used from that point forward as your new defaults. And you can see from that, I haven't had to go out of the stock reordering in order to achieve that. So it saves you a lot of time. So by having this history here and having all this information about the various stock reorder types, you know, if you're type 3, you're going to be working on history weeks. If you're type 2, you're going to be working on reorder levels and maximum level. And if you type 1, it's a minimum level, and you've got an optional fixed amount to order. This column here shows you your available items, and this one's the selected vendor. So you've got really all the information that you need. But very importantly, what you can do now is, because you've got the defaults built in and you've got the history, we can see that in my test system here, these items you're just not selling. So you know, from this point of view, you can just go into them and say, right, I'm just not selling this item. I'm going to take it off stock reordering for the future. Yeah. So just set it to 0 and update that, and that will remove it. Yeah. What we've also added is a great new feature in here that will say, and you've got to select at least one vendor to use this. So if you want to see if there's any items that you're selling, but they're not on stock reordering, if I type into here, actually, if I type into here and select a vendor, and if I tick this box here, and I select type 0. Type 0 means that this currently you're not reordering these items. They haven't got any stock reordering. So if I do a search now, it's going to search through quite a lot of stuff, so it might take a few seconds. But what's important, not only do you want to remove things from stock reordering, but you want to be able to find things for certain vendors that you maybe are selling and then add them into the stock reordering. So once those results come back, what you can do is just select the lines and say, hey, we're selling some of these. Let's put that into type 2 or type 3. And then from that point forward, the stock reordering will work for that one. Yeah. So we're just doing some work on that at the moment, but that will show you the sales, and you'll be able to say, obviously you'll have more information than I have. And you say, look, I'm selling lots of this product. I'm going to add that one to my defaults going forward. And I'm going to select that one. Yeah. Yeah, you can see there on that particular one. I'm going to change it to type 3. Yeah. I'm going to change it to that and update it. So the final part of it is, yeah, once you've done all that stuff, if I just get rid of these defaults. So once you're happy and you don't have to, you've got complete control over this. So it's only going to build the items that you want to actually. So in this case, I've got a couple of fellows items. I'm going to select those items, and I can then create a purchase order. Yeah. And oops. So you can see we've got a new purchase order with those items on 50 and 20. You can alter, obviously in the normal way, you can change these amounts. But we've also added in here, when you've got a min quantity and a reorder quantity, you'll see those multiples on, which will help you in your stock reordering if you want to change the quantity to know that you've got to order another 5, for example. Yeah. So those improvements, I'm sure, will really make it a lot more efficient for you to manage your stock, and it'll give you a lot more information and flexibility and better control over your inventory. So that concludes the webinar for today, but if you've got any comments, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. So just check you've got chat on. I'll leave the sharing on. So are there any questions? Can I help anybody? All right.
Steve, I don't have any questions, but how would our purchasing folks access this webinar? They weren't able to pull off their work to join us today.
Oh yeah, Maria will send out a link to the, but it's in the usual place on the YouTube channel for Prima Edge.
Okay, great, thank you.
So it will be up in a couple of hours usually by the end of the day. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Steve.
What version will this be available in?
It'll be in the next customer. It'll be in the next beta release, but it'll be in the customer release, which is actually due out in the next couple of weeks. So, in fact, we're just making the last few changes to this reordering, and then it's going to be released to. Once it's been out with the betas for a couple of weeks, it'll be released to everybody. If you want to be part of the beta program, then you're quite welcome to be added to that. There's quite a lot of other good features we've added as well in there. There's an interesting one, for example, for stock allocations. You can now you can exclude a van route. A route as we call them. So a route. If you have a route that you say Amazon that you don't want to allocate automatically or something like that, or it's a route that Ascendant or SBR ship locally for you, then you don't want to allocate those items. So that's another example of one of the many features we've added in there. But yes, it'll be in the next version. So it'll be in 0.5, probably 24.5. I'm not saying sometimes because we do a couple of quick iterations of the version. So, but the next version that goes out to customer release is expected to be 5. It could be 6, and it'll be available in a couple of weeks' time to everybody. Okay, so there's no more questions. Then that concludes today's seminar. And thank you everyone for checking in and listening.